When you're down this many guys, you're going to run out of gas. You're playing the game to win.
Another week, another game that the Owls are just unable to win.
Plus, basketball returns in a few weeks, and one Owl is already getting recognition. OwlSports Update starts right now.
Hello and welcome to another edition of OwlSports Update. For one final time this fall, alongside Jackson Neal, I'm Brooklyn Vaughn.
Temple dropped its third straight game last weekend against SMU, and the schedule doesn't get any easier as they travel to Orlando this Saturday.
The last time Temple played UCF, the Owls trailed by only a touchdown at halftime, but ended up falling apart in the second half, losing 63-21.
The Golden Knights still feature a high-flying offense that now ranks among the best in the country. Leading this attack is sophomore quarterback Dillon Gabriel, who's thrown for 21 touchdowns and over 2,500 yards in just 6 games. Both of those are top 5 in the nation. His main target is senior wide receiver Marlon Williams, who's caught 6 of those TDs as part of his 59 receptions for 840 yards. Together, they're the core of an offense that averages 652 yards per game. That's on pace to break the NCAA record of 640, set by Jerry Rice and Mississippi Valley State back in 1984. The kickoff for Saturday is set for 7:30 at night as the Owls return to national TV, with the game being featured on ESPNU. Fans can also choose to listen to the matchup by tuning in to 97.5 The Fanatic here in Philadelphia. We'll also be posting live game updates on Twitter at OwlSports Update, so make sure to follow us along on there.
Talk a little bit more about the Owls' next road trip to take on the Knights. We now bring in OwlSports Update's Lindsay Moppert for more.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
So Anthony Russo has missed the past 2 games with injury, and we're not sure if he'll be ready for Saturday. What do you expect from the Owls QB position?
Yeah, I'm not expecting Russo to play, and when it comes to Trad Beatty, he left the game against SMU after the first half, so I'm assuming that, since Rod Carey hasn't said much about him and his situation, that he is not playing this weekend. So, I'm going to expect Real Mitchell to take the start this weekend against UCF.
Okay, and then let's go ahead and look at the Knights real quick. UCF currently has the best passing offense in the country. How is Temple going to contain that historic offense?
UCF runs a super fast-paced offense, which sometimes catches the other team off guard. So Temple's defense is really going to need to play hard in order to slow down their offense. Having sophomore quarterback Dillon Gabriel, and he's thrown a total of 21 touchdowns and 2,500 passing yards in just 6 games for the Knights. So, Temple's offense is definitely going to need some long scoring drives to keep the ball out of their hands.
All right, Lindsay, so let's get right down to it. What is your game prediction for this Saturday?
I think the game is going to be a high scoring game, but in the end, I think that their UCF's strong offense is going to take the lead in scoring, and the final will unfortunately fall to 48-28 UCF.
The score and everything. Lindsay, I agree with you. Before you go, tell us a little bit, though, about the changes that we saw this past weekend off the field.
Yes, Brooklyn. Last year, you may remember watching the Temple cheerleaders support the Owls from the sideline alongside players. But as we all know, this year has been looking much different for everyone.
No more flipping down the end zone. No more flying through the air. The Temple cheerleaders will be in the stands for the remainder of the Owls football season.
We are excited to be in the stadium. We will be socially distanced in the stands. We switched our focus this year more to crowd leading. Our goal is to just get everybody up on their feet, cheering with us to support the Temple football team.
COVID protocols have not only affected what game day looks like, but also what these 35 cheerleaders are allowed to do at practices.
Our team can't practice all together because there's too many of us, and being separated into 2 gyms has made it hard for us to get to know each other.
And the best aspect of being a part of a team is feeling like family. Being separated into 2 separate gyms, it's hard for them to feel that traditional sense of normalcy.
And it's not just the distance or the masks. Each cheerleader is tested once every 2 weeks. But it's all worth it.
My hopes and goals would be that we can maintain a positive mindset. And I think that's going to be a lot easier now knowing that we can go to football games, which is really exciting.
It made us take a deeper look into what our role is and how we can better support the athletic teams.
And there is still a long way to go this year. Basketball season starts later this month, and the school year ends with the national competition in Orlando. Reporting for OwlSports Update, I'm Lindsay Moppert.
TU on 2, 1, 2, TU!
Thanks, Lindsay. Before we move on, let's revisit this past weekend as the Mustangs came to town. The 1-3 Owls were looking for another conference win on Saturday, and it was looking in their favor as they took the early lead. Here's Tavon Ruley extending the Owls' lead 13-7 at the end of the first quarter. The Delco native racks up his 2nd career touchdown as an Owl. That lead won't last long, though, as Shane Buechele finds Tyler Page down the field for a 44-yard touchdown to take the lead in the second half. And that's a lead that the Mustangs won't give up for the rest of the day. This fight to the end zone from running back Tyler Levine makes for the 2nd of 4 SMU touchdowns in the 4th quarter. Remember, Temple had a 3-point lead at the start of this half. Anyway, Tamarick Williams finds the gap and takes it 49 yards to the house. Forget about it. But the Owls decide to make up some ground here. Brielle Mitchell finds Aaron Jarman in the end zone in garbage time to narrow the Mustangs' lead. Final score out of the link, 47-23, and was that a tale of 2 halves if I've ever seen one. The second half of games has been a big issue during Temple's 3-game losing streak.
Temple was outscored 37-10 in the second half versus SMU, 28-0 1 week earlier at Tulane.
The second half numbers are clear, but the reasons are a bit more complicated. The Owls haven't lost 3 games in a row since 2014, but that run came to an end after this weekend's tough loss to SMU. The losing streak is easy to see, but the reasons for it, that's a bit harder to pinpoint, mainly because there are many.
You know, the guys certainly fought hard, thought we had a good plan, didn't execute it enough. At times we did, just not enough. And so in the end of the game was what the end of the game was when the backups were in. So,
But this wasn't just a 1-game fluke. In fact, their second half struggles are now a trend. The Owls have been outscored 96-24 combined in the second halves of the last 3 games. And with a dozen or more players on their COVID list or the more traditional injury list, the Owls are finishing out their games with little fight left.
when you're down this many guys, you're going to run out of gas. But it doesn't matter. You know, you're playing the game. You're playing the game to win.
I think we've in the past few games we've shown that we starting well first quarter, and then second half we got to make sure that we finish in with the same intensity.
The Owls are left with no option but to try and remain optimistic as they close out their schedule. And it won't be getting much easier with a tough group of opponents that lie ahead: UCF, ECU, and Cincinnati.
We have a lot to move forward with. Getting our young guys these valuable reps in this time is going to pay dividends in the future. I know it will.
While the circumstances have been unprecedented this season, the Owls are arguably off to a more difficult start this fall than any other in recent history. 1-4 to open a season that began with a hard-fought loss at Navy, 31-29. The Owls rebounded with a victory at home against USF, 39-37. But since then, it has been a looming 0 in the win column, with the Owls currently on a 3-game losing streak. This started with a 41-29 loss in Memphis, where the Owls had a lead going into the half. The next week against Tulane was one the Owls would also like to forget, with a 38-3 loss. And this week started out with an Owls 47-23 loss to SMU and more second half struggles. Owls fans would certainly say that it has not been fun to watch.
As the football season begins to come to a close, we turn our attention to basketball. OwlSports Update's Jen Rodzowicz has more on the preseason expectations for one player on the women's team.
Thanks, Jackson. Mia Davis has become a household name within Temple Athletics throughout her first 3 years here. Now, heading into her senior season, the expectations remain high as ever.
Mia Davis has spent her entire Temple career on the court, making a name for herself. This year, everyone knows her name. Davis is the American Athletic Conference Co-Preseason Player of the Year. The senior boasts a total of 35 career double-doubles as she enters her 4th season.
Thank my teammates and coaches for even putting me in this position to get that award.
Receiving awards is nothing new to Mia Davis. At the end of her junior year, she was awarded with First Team All-Conference and was honored as a top 10 finalist for the Cheryl Miller Award.
Sick or tired or injured, like you would never know. That's just how she appears on the court because she just brings energy every day.
This co-preseason player of the year has not been bothered by any of the new norms the team has had to adapt to this season. Instead, she's keeping her focus on the court and getting better at every practice they have.
We've been left for so long without touching the ball, without practicing. So when we get in there, we're just trying to get better.
Temple finished its 2020 season with a 16-15 overall record. This year, in the preseason polls, they're picked to finish 5th out of 12 teams in the league.
Just coming in, proving people wrong like always, and getting better.
The Owls aren't looking back, but still aren't exactly sure what lies ahead. The schedule for this upcoming season is expected to be released possibly as early as this week. Reporting for OwlSports Update, I'm Jen Rodzowicz.
Mia Davis came into Temple as a freshman out of St. Francis Academy in 2017. Since starting her career here, she has played in 90 games and averaged 32.7 minutes per game. Mia has also averaged about 16 points and 9 rebounds per game. Last year, Mia was named 2020 Philadelphia Big 5 Player of the Year and was also named to the Big 5 first team.
Over to the men's side, where Aaron McKee will begin his 2nd season as head coach later this month. The Owls start with games against Virginia Tech and Rhode Island on back-to-back nights in the Air Force Reserve Basketball Hall of Fame tip-off tournament in Connecticut. Then, in early December, Temple has 2 straight Big 5 matchups. First, they travel to face 3rd-ranked Villanova before their home opener against LaSalle 3 days later. The AAC has yet to announce its conference schedule, and Temple could add more games outside of the American. So, stay tuned to @OwlSports Update on social media, where we'll keep you in the know on any upcoming announcements.
2020 has been an exciting year for some Temple alumni, and Cody Calafiore is no exemption. OwlSports Update's Adam Whittakin has more on the soccer player turned celebrity.
Former Temple Athletics alumni have been making headlines this past year, but not in just sports. Former midfielder and 2013 Business Administration graduate Cody Calafiore got the callback for Big Brother's All-Star Season 22.
One show, and now one final announcement, and Cody Calafiore's life is changed forever as winner of Big Brother All-Stars.
It's completely changed my life because then I ended up going into acting, and I ended up getting signed to different agencies because of being and having that notoriety from being on television.
And that's what reality TV can do for a very select few. Cody's win in season 22 came after a 2nd place finish 6 seasons earlier. Fans may know Cody from his acting, modeling, or even from his real estate business, but what fans might not know is that he is a Temple guy, 2013 graduate from the Fox Business School, not to mention the soccer team's top scorer in the early 2010s.
I'm Temple proud. I don't think enough people know about Temple. It's literally one of the greatest universities in the country.
Cody was originally set on becoming a professional soccer player of the Columbus Crew of the MLS until he tore 2 ligaments of his ankle. But as Cody says, everything happens for a reason, which eventually led him to Big Brother. Cody was runner-up on season 16, which prepared him for the top spot this fall in season 22.
I didn't wear enough gear the first time. And so this time I made sure I bought stuff before I went in. I had my hat that I always wanted to wear and my sweatshirt that I always wanted to wear. And I wanted to make sure that people were seeing Temple University.
Even though Big Brother is a key part of his life, Cody hasn't forgotten about his athletic roots. He still coaches soccer at Red Bank Catholic High School in New Jersey, as well as other travel teams. Reporting for OwlSports Update, I'm Adam Whittakin.
Before we wrap up, let's take a look at last week's Twitter poll. Going into the Owls matchup against SMU, we asked you which backup quarterback you wanted to see, and over 2/3 of voters said Real Mitchell. Both QBs got playing time and to similar results. They each threw for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Beatty, though, had to leave the game early because of an injury and looks to be out for this Saturday's game.
In this week's Twitter poll, we want to know which Temple basketball team will win more games this season, men's or women's. Make sure to follow and interact with us on Twitter at OwlSportsUpdate to stay updated on the very latest when it comes to all things Temple athletics. That'll do it for this week's edition of Owl Sports Update. Tune in next week for JJ Mayhowski and Courtney Murphy back on the desk.
For Brooklyn Vaughn and the entire Owl Sports Update crew, I'm Jackson Neal. See you next time.